Well, first of all, what kind of mythical powers does a Sun Devil have? We got to consider that.
Now, Terrell, run the road again!
Hey guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay?
Their fat little girlfriends have some obvious advantages. For one thing, their fat little girlfriends are telling them what they want to hear.
It's Division I football! Hey, murals!
All right, and welcome back to the Hoppy Huddle podcast. I'm Jake, that's Ed, and today we are doing a Week 12 reaction show because, boy, did we have some interesting results in this week of college football. There was a lot of shakeups, and there's gonna be some controversial takes spouted off this week because I've been hearing a lot of smack about certain conferences and certain teams being. I'm never looking at polls again. I don't believe in any of them. They're all garbage. It's all rigged. Stop the count.
Yeah, and we'll probably get to that later this week when we get to the rankings. But hey, first let me just say a quick word. Oklahoma's coach Brent Venables just announced I guess in the last half hour, his wife Julie, her cancer has returned, and I guess she's been dealing with this season. And you just want to lift up prayers to her. I mean, that's kind of, evidently she's been going back and forth between New York and Norman, Oklahoma for cancer last several weeks or months, several months, just had surgery.
Dang.
And so can you imagine, I mean, with all the pressure he's under at Oklahoma and dealing with
Dude,
that,
I would just, if I were him, I'd just dip out, man.
So, you're
rich.
Our prayers are out for Brent and his family and just,
that's super
What
sad.
a difficult thing to go through. And he's not having a great season for a lot of reasons. And then he's dealing with his wife's cancer. So just our prayers are out with him and his family. So anyway, but
absolutely.
That's real life stuff that we talk and joke a lot about football people, but these are real people with real things happening. So anyway, all right. Anyway, so weekend was interesting. You and I had a chance. We'll get to this game. You and I, the Hoppy Huddle was on the road. We were actually at the Florida LSU game, which we will get to at some point and talk about our experiences there. That was quite an event.
It was amazing.
But it was an interesting weekend. I guess overall, I don't know there was any, we had some interesting results. We'll get this whole SEC mess at some point. We've got really 2 big weekends left in the regular season. A lot of big matchups coming in this coming week.
Oh, yeah.
So we're starting to see how this thing is shaping up, and it's still chaotic. A lot can happen the last 2 weeks. But, it was just a great weekend of college football. Man, I'm just getting sad. It's coming to an end. I don't know what to do. I actually have to do some yard work, maybe do some stuff on the house. Just things I really don't want to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, let's kick it off. Where do you want to start with the week? Are we going to talk about the supposed big game of the weekend?
Which one was that?
Well,
Georgia, Tennessee?
Yeah.
So I did not get a lot of eyes on this because I was out with my brother Tyler out doing shenanigans, and they were not watching the fights. We ended up watching UFC fight and put all that on, but I did not get a ton of eyes on this one. So I just kind of saw the highlights. Highlights looked like Georgia's defense really stepped up, and Carson Beck played well enough to not throw the game, didn't turn the ball over as much. That's kind of what I got from it.
Yeah, Tennessee jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and my initial thoughts were, oh boy, could this get out of hand? But all of a sudden, Georgia got right back in it. Georgia found the tight end in their offense. It's like they forgot
Oscar Delp.
Yeah, whoever it was Delp. Well, they used multiple tight ends actually.
Okay.
But they found the tight end of the offense. It's like they went back to what works. Just because Bowers isn't there anymore, they went back to that position. That was a big key in making Carson Beck look better. And for me, it was a couple of keys to this game. First of all, it goes back to two things we've said about Tennessee all year. Hey, Jake, is my internet connection okay? I'm getting a little warning sign here. Can you still hear me? Jake, you got me okay on the internet?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. Yep. Okay.
I don't know why it just dropped.
Okay, it dropped me for a second. So
what are you saying?
So really, two things we talked about literally on and off, and almost go back to our initial podcast, the beginning of the season, we talked about Tennessee. There was so much hope and promise in Tennessee, but we had two sort of questions. I think, and I mentioned it maybe on the SEC preview podcast, we didn't really know how good this Tennessee secondary is. And they really hadn't been tested all year. And I think Georgia was really the first team that came out in a pro-style offense with a pro-style passing attack and tested them. And they failed. And Tennessee just failed because they made Carson Beck look good. I think that showed. And I think nobody else had really done that all year. Even Bama didn't really do it. Nobody had done that to Tennessee. So that was the first problem that Tennessee ran into. The second, so Carson Beck had a good game. He looked good. I just don't know how much of that was really Carson Beck versus Tennessee's poor secondary.
That would be kind of my guess.
Probably a little bit of both, but Tennessee could not get their defensive line, which has been the strength of the team, couldn't get enough pressure on Carson Beck, and you just left that defensive backfield exposed. And then the other piece was, can Nico make the big plays? Can he throw the ball? And they're just not going to be relying on Dylan Sampson. Didn't happen. And, I heard, I was listening to Josh Pate's podcast, and I said, well, what did Josh say? And I hope I get the quote correct. He goes, well, Tennessee we know that they haven't played their best game yet. And my first thought when he said that was like, at what point are we going to stop saying that? We are 10 games into the season. They are who they
have
are
played their best game.
Maybe we have seen their best game. They're not maybe we keep expecting Nico to be better. Maybe this is the best he's going to be this year. I'm not saying he's not going to be better long term, but this may be it for this year. And he's just going to be an inconsistent quarterback who's not going to hit the deep ball enough. And they're going to be relying on their defense, Dylan Sampson, which is probably enough to get them to the playoff, maybe, but it's probably not enough to win a national championship.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think it's also probably says something that Carson Beck's two probably best performances are second half against Bama and Tennessee.
Both of which
what do those
secondaries
have in common? Really, really suspect secondaries.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the things
I'm still not confident Carson Beck for the playoff.
No, you take him out of the confines of the home field. I mean, that was a great atmosphere for Georgia Saturday night, the blackout. I mean, that's the kind of home field advantage that just gives you an extra boost. I don't think that's going to happen in the playoffs. I really don't.
I tend to agree there.
So let's talk about, Georgia real quick. They're done with the SEC. They're done. I mean, they all have left. They play UMass, who fired their coach yesterday. And then they play Georgia Tech. Now, I don't really... What?
But I'm saying maybe.
Maybe. This would be the year.
Wouldn't it be hilarious? And this would be the year. Georgia's down. Tech is up.
Yes. That would be great. That'd be great.
Their defense isn't horrible. Who's got a better secondary, Georgia Tech or Tennessee?
Georgia Tech, I would think.
Georgia Tech, right?
Yeah, Georgia Tech really, I think that will be interesting, and I think they got a fighting chance. And you just don't know if Georgia's going to be playing their A game or their C game. No, I'm with you. We'll talk about that one in 2 weeks.
I've been sneakily looking at that one on the calendar, but
Georgia's done. Let's assume they beat Georgia Tech. Well, it actually doesn't even matter. They got 2 losses in the SEC. I mean,
they're probably in the SEC title game, right?
Maybe they don't control. I hate this term. They don't control their own destiny. They still need help, but they
control their own path.
They control their path. They don't control their path. There's still other things need to happen, but they're in a good position at this point. Tennessee, on the other hand, still has this weekend is the annual Let's Play All Our Cupcakes week. So Tennessee plays UTEP. Yeah. Then they go to Vanderbilt. And do not take Vanderbilt for granted. We've learned that. Could they lose to Vanderbilt? And I'm not convinced
Yes, they could lose to Vanderbilt.
I don't know how this is all going to break, but as a 3-loss Tennessee team, tell me where their good win is. Bama? That's it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think a 3-loss team is making the playoffs. So
I'll start with that. You never know. I
guess there's a chance. There's a chance, but it's not going to be 3-loss Tennessee.
Is it going to be a 3-loss team that goes to the SEC championship and loses a third game? Because someone's going to.
It could be that one. That might be it.
So, but I think if they lose to Vanderbilt, they're done. I mean, they've got to beat Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Tennessee can't get in with 3 losses.
No. So Tennessee knows what has to happen there, and Vanderbilt will do nothing more this year to just be the thorn in their side. So
Roll doors, baby. Roll doors.
So we've got a couple, not this weekend, but in the 2 weekends from now, Thanksgiving weekend, we got a couple of regional matchups, rivalry games that the underdog has really got a good shot for the first time in a number of years in both those matchups.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we're not going to talk about what all this means for the SEC in the playoff. We'll save that for our midweek show because, quite honestly, I don't have the desire to go into it tonight because it'll make me mad, and I want to enjoy my Monday night.
It'll make my head hurt looking at all the dang. It's a math problem that we got to do to figure out who's in the playoff.
Exactly.
All right, where do you want to go next? Do you want to talk about the, BYU upset? I feel like we got to talk.
That was the biggest upset, I guess, of the weekend.
Number 7 BYU losing to Kansas. By the way, I called this.
You did.
Yeah. What did I say? It would be low. I said low scoring, right? Yeah. So 17-13, I think essentially BYU's luck just ran out. Like, that's really what it is. BYU is not that different of a team than they were the last 3 weeks, the last month. It's just this time the coin didn't like call the heads, They didn't, it landed tails, they called heads. Coin flip game. They lost it this time. Kansas is rolling into form, which is a phrase I did not think would ever leave my mouth, but Kansas they're all right. Not a bad team, really. I think Jalen Daniels played well enough again. Ritzlaff did 1 TD, 1 interception. 18 for 28. He didn't win them the game. He's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback.
So this now basically dooms the Big 12 to one team. I mean, this is it now. Now it's the conference champion.
Yeah.
BYU, while they're lost, they're not done yet because they can still win the conference championship. But they have a huge matchup this week at Arizona State, which
by the way, the Sun Devils, man, have been on a roll.
So this was a team that was picked to finish dead last in the Big 12.
Yep.
And they are now 8-2, and they have a chance. They beat BYU.
They just beat Kansas State this week.
They beat Kansas State. If they go beat BYU, they're on a path. And of course, they've got to beat Arizona the last week, which while it's a rivalry game, they should be a good favorite.
They should win.
They should win. They're going to be in the Big 12 championship. And what a job by Kenny Dillingham. I mean, Sam Levis played well. Gadaboo, a quarterback. I mean, running back. This has been a club that, and now again, they got a favorable schedule. Let's not be. Let's they
won their games though. They beat Kansas State this week. That's a huge win for them. Number 20 ranked Kansas State.
Yes, yeah. But they went to Texas Tech and won early when nobody thought they did.
Yep.
They played an SEC team and won. Shocker. They beat Kansas when Kansas was down. They beat Utah when Utah was still ranked. I mean, so they got a favorable schedule. They didn't have to play Baylor. They didn't have to play Colorado. They didn't play Iowa State. But they're taking advantage of it. And nobody thought this team would even fit to go bowling this year, much less compete for the championship.
Yeah,
so
being picked last in the Big 12 it seems to be kind of a blessing in disguise. Because I know a couple of years ago, Baylor was picked last in the Big 12, and they ended up winning the whole thing. So,
yeah. So we got a great matchup Saturday against BYU, and I believe that game is in Tempe for Arizona State. That is going to be an absolute must watch. I think that's going to be exciting because I'm just excited to see Arizona State good again. And Kenny Dillingham is going to be he's a native there. I think he went to school there. He is building that program.
Absolutely. And what people have always said that Arizona State is a sleeping giant for like 25 years. Everybody has said that, ASU has the potential and the resources and the numbers, and they could be a powerhouse if they're unlocked. And I think with Dillingham, he's from there. He went to ASU. Like, I think he has the power to unlock it. And if they get rolling, they have a higher ceiling, in my opinion, than probably anyone else in the Big 12, except maybe Colorado Dion if he decides to recruit. Like, I don't know.
Well, Yeah, I mean, I
Arizona
don't
State
know.
can definitely be up there in the tier 1 of the Big 12 if they get unlocked for
I think
sure.
some of the Texas schools have deep pocket money that ASU
Yeah.
doesn't, just because they got old money, whereas ASU has got
That's true.
public school. But as far as depth of talent in Arizona is tremendous. Your range, you're going to get
much less competition for it, by the way. For that Southern California talent, it's literally just USC and Oregon that you're competing against. And
Yeah,
USC
you're going to draw kids
pretty
from
easy selling
Arizona
point right now.
Arizona and California.
Yeah.
It's beautiful out there. Academically, you're not going to have problems getting in. I mean, you've got a lot of benefits.
And an underrated factor is all the kids from the people who moved south in the early 2000s from the Sun Belt boom, they're now playing high school football. And Arizona has some of the most competitive and some of the high school football in the country. Like, so the Sun Belt boom has turned into a college football player boom now for the state of Arizona.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to watching it. We'll preview that matchup later in the week. The other Big 12 matchup, the other team that is we've been talking about, do you believe? Boy, Colorado, man, prime time. Colorado turned it on, put a whipping on Utah. They are the clear front runner at this point. I know we watched a little of that game together while we were in Gainesville. They've got everything together. They put it together. Not only are they playing well offensively, they're playing well defensively. This is a complete team. There's a reason why they're the FanDuel favorite right now to win the conference. They're scoring points, and they're scoring. And we said it last week, you have to score a lot of points to beat this team. I mean, they've scored 49, 41, 34, 34, 31, 48, 38. I mean, you have to go back a long way to find them scoring less than 30 points. Tough to stop them.
Yeah, and it's not just Travis Hunter anymore. Shedeur is spreading the ball out to all these. They got, I think, two other receivers that are pretty talented as well. He's spreading the ball out to these other receivers. Hunter is drawing defensive attention, leaving people open. Obviously, he's playing both sides. And Shedeur has been really accurate in the pocket. He's mobile and has got good sack avoidance.
Yeah.
They've also, their O-line has really stepped up as the year's gone on. Like
having Jordan Seaton helps out a lot.
Yeah, they've protected him more and been able to sort of establish kind of a counterbalancing run to go with that elite passing attack they have.
Yeah, they've got a big matchup this week against Kansas, and don't sleep on Kansas. Kansas is one of the hottest teams in the Big 12, scoring points. They found the recipe, and Kansas would love nothing more to play spoiler here and throw this whole conference into chaos. So that's going to be a big matchup.
They would absolutely do that.
Kansas can still go bowling if they win the last two.
Yeah.
So,
and if you want to just stay in the Big 12 here for a second, can we talk about what is the sixth best quarterback in the country by QBR currently? That's Baylor quarterback Sawyer Robinson. He's got, a better QBR than Dylan Gabriel, and right essentially there with Jalen Milroe. Him and the Baylor Bears dropped 49 points in a win over West Virginia on Saturday, breaking the Baylor-West Virginia curse, which if you're a Baylor fan, you know what this is. This is the inability of the Bears to go into Morgantown and come out with a win. It just doesn't happen. They had never won in Morgantown before, and they broke that curse. They broke the TCU curse this year. They broke the Morgantown curse. They're scoring almost 50 points the last 3 games. Baylor is a dangerous team right now, and you do not want to mess with them. And going into next year, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I know we're not going to a 64-team football tournament, but this is one of those teams that if they were a basketball team, they'd be like a 6 or 7 seed or 8 seed, and they kind of get in, and everyone's like, oh, what they've done.
I don't want to play them.
And a half because nobody want to face them. This team they figured out they struggled a little early trying to figure out the right rhythm and the offense, new offense,
the right quarterback,
right everything, right? Yeah, the right quarterback. But they are on fire. If they can keep this team together. Now they've got a tough matchup with Kansas coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I think that could just be a game where they better not get caught looking. That's what a turnaround for Dave Aranda. By the way, you saw Saturday night they announced he will be returning. He was number 1 or number 1A on our hot seat, coach's hot seat at the beginning of the year. Great to see him get off of it, and they've done a good job recruiting for the future. So, I mean, I like to see good stories like this where coaches can actually turn it around, especially when they're good guys.
Yeah.
A lot to be hopeful for in Waco, Texas. Exciting to watch. We were at the Florida game, and you and I were not sitting together. We'll get to all that later in the next segment. But every time I turned around, I was checking on the Baylor game, and
their touchdown had happened.
It was a touchdown, and your younger brother was watching the game at where he was, and he kept texting me. He's like, "You're not going to believe what's going on in this game." In the last 2 minutes, it was so many touchdowns were scored, and Sawyer he only missed 2 passes in the first half.
Yeah,
they scored. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes of the first half.
Yeah, and I don't know if you ended up watching the highlights of any of those touchdowns, but they weren't. It wasn't just like, oh, it broke out for a long run on a screen pass. Like Sawyer was making tough down the field, drop it into the basket throws, like
they were
down the center of the field, over top of the defenders, like darts. And he looked like an elite college quarterback.
Yeah.
And honestly, the last 3 weeks has been the best performance by a Baylor quarterback since probably Bryce Petty.
But the sad thing is, Jake, is that nobody in college football pays attention to it because he's not in the Big Ten or the SEC.
Well, part of the reason is that Baylor started the year pretty bad. So if you do that at any school, like Baylor's not really a contender, and that
I know, but we're going to talk about it on this podcast because we love football.
Yeah, we are, because I'm completely unbiased with the Baylor Bears. Nothing would tip you off to that. But no, we're going to talk about my Baylor Bears, of course. So yeah, speaking of University of Florida games, the two of us
that were on the hot seat.
Speaking of coaches on the hot seat, Billy Napier, the two of us were at the Florida Georgia game, the Florida LSU game. And man, that was an exciting atmosphere. I just got to shout out to the Swamp, man. That's a great atmosphere. Love that environment. Won't back down. Tom Petty, all the Mr. Two Bits, and all of the different things in the environment there. But besides the environment, DJ Lagway really shined, and it kind of exemplified why, like you said earlier, he's going to be playing on Sunday, because even though he basically was immobile, like he could not use his legs at all, which is a big part of his game, he looked like an elite pocket passer. Like he looked like a better pocket passer today than Carson Beck has looked all year. And he made difficult throws. Yeah, and that's something. He's a freshman, Carson. Yeah, so, I mean, he made difficult throws, across his body throws, into tight coverage. And yes, Florida, like statistically, it was not the most efficient game for Florida's offense. LSU did kind of control the ball for much of the game. But Florida executed when they needed to most. They played a little red zone roulette with LSU, let them get some yards. And honestly, what I said going into this game, which is why I picked Florida to cover, is because the playbook on LSU is out. Everybody knows what you do with LSU. Like, you just drop everybody in coverage because they can't run the ball, and then wait for Garrett Nussmeier to make a mistake because he can't fit the ball into tight windows if the windows don't exist. And so you just blanket coverage, drop everybody back, and then dare them to run the ball, and they can't run the ball. And they broke off a few running just because they had a man advantage, but like, their run blocking on their O-line is not very good, and the playbook on LSU is out. People know how to beat them, and the jig is up.
Yeah, I mean, what a great atmosphere. This was the feeling going to this game, and everybody in the atmosphere was everybody just felt like they could get LSU. And I had several thoughts. First of all, LSU, Garrett Nussmeier, and I'll go back to the beginning of the year. He's a good quarterback. He's not Jaden Daniels. And he did get help. He had a couple, I think I counted on 3 drops that really hurt him in the game. Wide receivers didn't help him. But the Florida defense was outstanding. I think I sent you this text after the game. I think LSU's offensive line had only allowed 6 sacks all year in SEC games. They gave up 7 sacks.
They got pressure to him.
Florida the defensive line was really the difference. They were able to get pressure on Nussmeier, especially in the second half. That was the difference in the second half. And then DJ, yes, DJ was not healthy. That hamstring is still bothering him. They did not call any design run plays. He would not move in his pocket. And the most spectacular throw was where the one play where both edge rushers for LSU got around him. He had to step up, and he had a defender hanging on him, and he threw a 35-yard bullet pass right to that 1 yard line to get him that other touchdown. Just a tremendous effort with Lagway. He wasn't, I think he completed 50% of his passes, but considering he couldn't run, that was all he could do. I mean, he played a really good game, and that's why the future is so bright there in Gainesville, and that's why.
And he looked good, like the eye test, like only 50%, but the 50% he did complete were all really impressive.
Well, he throws a good deep ball, and then when he completes them, they're deep. They're not. He's not going to be. I think, we look at it, I'll pick on Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is having a good season with the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix completes 75% of his passes, but out of that 75%, 80% of those are screen passes or checkdowns.
Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel the same way. But DJ Lagway, when he's throwing the ball, he's throwing downfield. He's throwing down 15, 20, 25 yards downfield to receivers.
Yep.
So you could be 50%. He is an old school 1970s, 80s quarterback from the NFL. We're throwing the ball downfield. Nobody was 60% back then. You were 50%, but you were throwing the ball downfield a lot, and that's Lagway. But the other thing he brings to the equation is he can run and he's mobile. He did none of that. And LSU knew that. They tried to blitz, but he kept finding ways, and eventually they got. What was fascinating, and you and I were sitting in different sections. You broke into the student section, your brother, which is a whole different experience. I was sitting up in the normal people section. But LSU was running so many plays, and I just kept thinking about, at some point, I was like, man, this is really going to get the floor. Are they going to be able to get off the field enough? But they I don't know if they just fed off the energy. I mean, I've been to a lot of Florida games. You've been to some. I've never seen the Swamp like that in a long time. People who are around me who are 30-year ticket holders. One guy was sitting next to me. He's like 80 years old. He was in tears when Ball ran for that 55-yard touchdown run. I mean, people were saying the Swamp was like what it used to be. And, the energy was there. People were proud to be a Gator that day. What a great – she was toast. I mean, they were just done. They could not compete. I was measuring the decibels. Got up to 118 decibels at one point for several plays.
Yeah, that checks out.
I mean, just crazy loud. Hats off to the Gators. Now, they've got 2 games left. They got to win one to get bowl eligible. I think that one's going to come against Florida State. Ole Miss comes in. Ole Miss, you better be bringing the game you brought against Georgia, because if you bring that game against Kentucky, Florida's going to beat you. They will beat you. But I don't think we're going to get that Ole Miss. I think we're going to get a good.
I think Ole Miss has improved since then. So
I think they have, and I think they know better. But don't just write Florida off, because remember, Florida was playing well in the Georgia game. DJ got hurt. They went to Texas and got blown out, but they didn't have DJ. They had a third-string quarterback. So you can just, it looks bad, but that wasn't the same team. In the Swamp, it's a different story. Now, this is a noon game. You're not going to get the same feel of the Swamp for a noon game as you would a 3:30 or 7. I think that's a terrible disgrace for the home team not being playing. If this game was at night, the energy and electricity would be there.
Yeah.
But it'll be an interesting game. We'll watch at the same time we're watching Indiana, Ohio State. So.
Yeah. Yep. I agree there. Texas, Arkansas. Texas, a little scary there for a little bit, but Texas ended up getting the win. Did not see cover though. I don't really read too much into this. Sam Pittman may be headed out the door.
I think some people are getting a little frustrated with him. I think it looked nice for a little while, but it's going back to the same result.
I think there might be warning signs with Texas if you just look back at the season, and I'm like, what they played.
Who have they beaten?
I know I don't want to be the who have they played gang, but they have had a pretty easy schedule, and everyone thinks that they're that top 1A tier team. But are we really convinced they are? Because they lost to Georgia. Georgia has 2 losses. They looked vulnerable. I'm not.
The Michigan win doesn't look so good.
The Michigan win does not look good at all. I'm just not sure that Texas is I'm not sure Texas is who we thought they are this season. So that's just a little side note from the Texas Arkansas game. Texas won, but just kind of a little warning sign maybe going into the Texas A&M game in 2 weeks.
So was Quinn Ewers going to be the 2025 starting quarterback for the Oregon Ducks, or is he going to be the starting quarterback for the trying to think, where is he going to be next year?
Don't kid yourself, Cleveland will draft him.
Okay. All right. All right.
Of course they will. Of course they will.
Because
Come
Arch will
on
be
now.
the quarterback next year. They're not going to.
Yeah.
Ewers didn't get
Yeah.
another year. So
No, Ewers has run his course there.
we talk. I know this isn't going to affect any major standings. Can we talk about Stanford and Louisville?
Sure,
Did you
I did not
see that?
get any eyes on this game. What
All right.
what happened to Stanford and Louisville?
Well, I will walk you through this. First of all, Louisville, you had no business letting Stanford be in the game. But I'll walk you through the end result here. We are tied. First of all, you let Stanford tie the game up with what? How much time left? Yeah, they tied it up with a 25-yard pass. Well, you had a 35-21 lead. You let them score 2 touchdowns in the last 6 minutes. They tied it up with about 47 seconds. Okay.
What?
Oh, hold on. It's a tie game, 35-35. Louisville takes the ball to about midfield or so. I forget the exact yardage. It's 4th and 10 with 4 or 5 seconds or 10 seconds left or whatever. It's 4th and 10, Louisville. You punt the ball. They decide to go for it, throw a deep pass. It's incomplete. There's 3 seconds left on the clock. Okay, Stanford's not in field goal range. So this is the Mario Cristobal award of the week. So Stanford gets the ball. They try to throw a real quick, 5-yard pass to try to get out of bounds. The guy catches it with, I'm not even sure there was maybe a second left. Gets out of bounds. While he's out of bounds, the Louisville player pushes him, shoves him. They get a 15-yard.
Oh,
They get a 15-yard personal foul.
no.
Move Stanford into field goal range. Then they it's a 57-yard field goal attempt, which this guy's never kicked this far. They line up. Then they get ready to line it up. Louisville guy jumps off sides. It moves them 5 yards closer. The Stanford kicker then nails
Are
it
you
to win the
serious?
game.
What?
I mean, complete brain freeze with Jeff Brom between the throw and the pass, punt the game, and you go into overtime. Then the 2 penalties, and they lose the game. They give up 17 points in the last 6 minutes.
How?
Yeah. I mean,
Come on, Jeff. You're better than this.
yeah. I did not read the local Louisville boards or anything, but man, that was the brutal beat for Louisville.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that is going to ACC. They're like, Louisville's a 4-loss team. I'm like, give me a break. These things happen.
Well, you know where else? You know where else Louisville will be a 4-loss team? In the SEC.
Yes, exactly. They wouldn't lose to Georgia State. Oh, I'm sorry, Vanderbilt did. Oh, the team that beat Alabama. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not allowed to do that because that's a good loss, Alabama.
They wouldn't lose to. Well, actually, they're going to play Kentucky, so we'll see.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just an interesting ending. He's not on the phone. On the chat here. Notre Dame just systematically dismantled UVA, but UVA did cover as they always do. So
Hey, good team win, great teams cover.
I did not watch. I watched a little of the Oregon game. I did not stay up to see the end. Was tired. We had a long day. I went back and watched some of the ending against Wisconsin. My take. Did you see any of it, Jake? I guess you were out.
I didn't.
somewhere.
No, I didn't see any of it.
So my take on this one was, I think Wisconsin had a pretty good game plan. The defense really came through. I think the way Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator of Wisconsin, was fired yesterday. So I think
I never understood that hire.
It never made sense in the beginning anyway.
Because North Carolina just had good QBs. Good QBs make
Yeah. So, but I thought Wisconsin had a great game plan. Oregon eventually, I never really felt like, again, I watched some of it, and then at the end I watched some more later. It seemed like Oregon was going to win the game. However, Dan Lanning pulled a Dan Lanning again, going for he was up 3, 4th down. All you got to do is punt the ball, or I'm trying to remember the situation, punt the ball. Instead, he went for the fake field goal to get the ball right back to Wisconsin. Yeah, I mean, I just question these decisions. He did this last year in the Washington game. I mean, sometimes Dan Lanning tries to overthink the situation, and that has me a little worried.
But he's kind of a mad scientist, and you can't really, you're a mad scientist when you're right, and you're a mad scientist when you're wrong. We praise him for the crazy scheme, whatever thing he did in the Ohio State game, right?
Yeah.
But with that, you also get whatever he's been cooking up in the lab with the fake field goal. So
I
kind of get what you get with that. So I
get it.
We'll see.
I get it, but
practice. They'll probably run it again in the playoff.
I think something like that in the playoff may cost them at some point. So
not if they make it.
Well, so other interesting notes from Saturday. Warren for Penn State was basically the offensive again for them. 190 yards from
soccer,
2 touchdowns, 63 rushing, 127 yards receiving. Can we please get him to New York for the Heisman ceremony? I know he's
not going to get there, but he deserves it.
I mean, Dylan. Listen, Dylan Gabriel's great and everything, but he plays an offense catered to him. Tyler Warren is Penn State's offense. Will people please realize this? This team is ranked as high as they are because of Tyler Warren. Can we give the guy some love? Somebody else nationally, please.
Absolutely.
This guy, first, he will be first-team All-American. He will win the Mackey Award. He deserves as much talk as
he will probably be a first-round pick.
I don't know about that because the tight ends don't usually get drafted.
Late first round, maybe. I don't know.
No, I think it's second or third, probably third. I mean,
okay,
you got to remember defensive ends, corners, wide receivers,
right? Tight ends don't go very high, but
he will have I think he'd clearly be valuable to an NFL team. I wish he was going to New York because we always value these most valuable players on these teams, but why isn't he being considered as the most valuable player for the 4th-ranked Nittany Lions? I mean, he clearly is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. But
I don't know, some other interesting games I thought with the Missouri-South Carolina game. Went back and watched was driving, having to listen to this game on the radio, which I actually enjoy listening to a game on the radio. It's kind of fun, the radio announcers. And I was listening no, I'm an old man. But I was in the car in traffic, stuck leaving the Florida game. So I turned on to get to the South Carolina radio network to listen to Missouri. Man, was that fun. I mean, first of all, Brady Cook hitting Luther Burden on that 4th down to get them to get there, to take the lead. And then
that was a great play.
That was it's great. And then, for all the trouble we give them, it was a 37-yard touchdown pass on 4th down. And then Lenore Sellers and Rocket Sanders just taking over with a minute left to go.
Yep.
I tell you what, I know South Carolina's not going to make the playoff, but man, I think they're better than Georgia. I think they're better than Alabama. I think they're better than Tennessee. I think they're better than Texas.
Yeah, that's South Carolina. Low key, got it. We should have kept divisions.
Yeah, can you imagine if we had division? Well, Georgia would still be leading that division.
South Carolina would have to play Georgia and Tennessee.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel bad for them because I don't know that this team will be the same next year. Although I think some of that talent's pretty young, aren't they?
Yeah, Lenore Sellers is a freshman.
Yeah, and some of those defensive guys are fresh, but I think Rocket's not going to be there.
Rocket's not, but they got the freshman Nick Arbor, which if he can ever learn how to catch, look out, world.
Yeah, would just again if this is where you're going to hate me saying this. I wish this was a 16-team playoff because
I do hate you saying this because they don't deserve to be national champions. They have 3 losses. They can't be national champions.
They could. Just as like one year Connecticut or UConn made the basketball tournament as like the 7th seed, ended up winning the thing because they got hot. In basketball.
I mean, basketball's different.
Is it really? Because you're not telling me right now that South Carolina isn't one of the – if we're going to talk about how good – let's talk about how good – if the SEC is the best conference, which ESPN tells me all the time they are, who are the best teams in the SEC? Honestly, Tess, don't start telling me a bunch of stuff. Who's the best team when you look at it today?
Alabama. Georgia.
You think they're better than Ole Miss and South Carolina?
Ole Miss are the 3 best teams in the SEC.
I would take South Carolina neutral field over Alabama.
In no particular order. I think Ole Miss is probably the best.
Well, I think they're playing the best right now. I think South Carolina would beat Georgia on a neutral field right now.
Maybe.
Because the way they're playing defensively, I don't think Carson Beck
Georgia's defense keeps Sellers in, but
I don't know. I wish we had a shot to see. I don't want to see teams like that either have injuries or struggle early that can find their footing. I mean, let's be realistic. I know Baylor's nowhere near that, but wouldn't you like to see Baylor take on some of these teams at this point in the season?
Oh yeah, I mean,
sometimes
Baylor's offense is crazy right now.
Sometimes teams make some mistakes in September because they just haven't found themselves yet.
Yeah, but you're not the national champion if you make mistakes in September.
Only because some teams just schedule Mercer and University of ULM and Wofford.
Okay. I
know.
don't know what to tell
All
you.
right, we're going. This is an off-season topic we can discuss. So.
Yeah. All right.
What other games do you want to go through the weekend? We have a few minutes left.
Trying to see SMU pulled out of Boston College, struggled there for a little bit. They won.
Yeah.
Clemson sweated it out against Pitt. That Clemson South Carolina game. Look out, man, because seems like South Carolina maybe. I think they're probably going to be favored.
They should be. They will be, and they'll probably beat Clemson.
Yeah. R.I.P. Nebraska, man. They're having a rough go of things. Now, to be fair to Nebraska, this is right on the Matt Rhule track because this is year 2 where they go 6-6. You know, that is the Matt Rhule track. Year 1, they win like 3 games. Year 2, they win 6 games. Year 3, they win 11 games. That is what Matt Rhule did at Temple. That is what Matt Rhule did at Baylor. And it would not surprise me if Nebraska is competing for the Big Ten title next year.
Yeah.
So
well, they got off to a good start. That's the problem. But then
they did. Their schedule did get harder, so it's not entirely crazy. Like we kind of knew that going in. It was going to be a little front-loaded, the easier games. So don't put your head down and think this is just like Scott Frost with the 1-score games. USC is a good team. Lincoln Riley, good coach. Keep your head up, Huskers. You'll be all right.
Another 1-score loss. That's what's interesting. For a lot of 1-score losses here. So, as long as they've got to make sure Dylan. They fired their whole coaching staff. They brought Dana Holgorsen or several of their coordinators. Or no, they just fired the offense coordinator. I'm sorry. Dana Holgorsen now is the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
I think Dana could probably do a good job, especially going into next year with Dylan
they
Reynolds.
needed new OC because that was not a good offense. You need to run a modern spread type offense for what Raiola can do. So,
yeah. Hey, I know we're not going to talk a lot about this game. Hats off to the New Mexico with a 38-35 victory over ranked Washington State, giving Washington State its second loss.
Yeah.
Our old buddy Bronco Mendenhall, that's his first year in New Mexico. He's on the verge. They're 5-6. They may get to a bowl game.
Hey, all right. New Mexico, baby.
Yeah, they're scoring. They're 29th in the country out of points per game. I mean, the Lobos are doing pretty well. I mean, that's a great coaching job. He won't get coach of the year in the country, but that's a heck of a coaching job. Turn around 1 year for Bronco on that staff.
Yeah, really is. Tulane obliterated Navy.
Yeah. Oh, that Army-Navy game isn't really as close as we thought, is it?
The Army-Navy game?
No, it's not.
An interesting little G5 note here. With Wazoo losing, they'll probably did they drop out of the AP? I didn't check. I just got to ignore the polls because they're a bunch of garbage. Or are they still ranked? If Wazoo's still ranked, then I ignore what I'm about to say. But
Wazoo was ranked 25th. They dropped 6 spots.
Okay, they might drop out here in the coming weeks, just based on how things roll. But that kind of hurts Boise State's resume because that was their only ranked win. Wazoo was Boise State's only ranked win. And everybody puts a lot of stock into the close loss to number 1 team in the country, which, I mean, is a fair comparison. But that if you were hoping for any sort of miracle with Boise State, you got to win the conference title, and you better hope that Army doesn't beat Notre Dame if you're a Boise State fan.
Well, I mean, Army's got to worry about Tulane first. I think Tulane beat Army.
Army Notre Dame is this weekend.
Army Notre Dame. I'm sorry, Army Notre Dame. Yeah. So let's assume Notre Dame beats Army because I think that's logistically. And then Army's going to play Tulane in the conference championship game, correct?
Yeah. Well, if you're Boise, you don't have to worry about Tulane because they got 2 losses. So
yeah, you do have to worry about them because Tulane keeps climbing up in the rankings.
They're not passing you with one more loss, like to a bad Oklahoma team, if you win your conference.
Probably not. So, but if Boise loses again, they'll pass them.
Probably.
Yes, they will. If Tulane keeps winning. Oh yeah, Tulane's at 20 now and Boise's at 12.
Yeah. My thing is like I know we think that Army has no chance against Notre Dame, but
they don't.
The Army is better than Navy significantly. That's pretty clear by this point.
I've come around, Brian. I know you're listening to the show. I've come around to Notre Dame. They're actually not bad.
Notre Dame is good. I will say that Notre Dame is good. But if you're Boise, you're a huge Notre Dame fan this weekend because
You're right.
There's a chance if Army does beat Notre Dame and wins the conference, Boise could get left out of the playoff.
If Army beats Notre Dame, then beats Tulane to win their conference and beats Navy, I'm telling you, they're going to jump Boise.
That's what I'm saying. That's the scenario that I was cooking up in my head. That's like just a little group of 5 nugget. Boise State about to be huge Notre Dame fans this weekend.
Because
I guess there's a chaos scenario where could Boise State get in as an at-large?
No, they're never.
Think so.
Come on,
I don't think so.
You're never going to allow that to happen. Not in a million.
Yeah, I really don't think so. It would have to be like no good teams from the SEC. Like you would need some weird stuff to happen. I don't think it would happen.
But I think you're right. I think if Army can kind of put that resume together, they're going to be such a feel good story.
Maybe even if they have a close loss to Notre Dame, like
I think you got to beat Notre Dame. I think
because
that's going to look so good, and everybody's going to the nostalgia factor alone is going to jump Boise State.
America's team, like
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think so.
So just a little G5 nugget, something to watch.
All right. Well, I think that about covered it. It was a relatively uneventful week on the most part. The rest of the games were pretty chalky.
Yeah. Just want to throw out there real quick. We got 3 weeks to National Signing Day. So this is the time to lock into recruiting because it is going down. Players are flipping. It's Flipmas, Merry Flipmas, as they say. Visits are being taken, bags are being handed. No, actually they are now. But this is the time where recruiting really matters, and it's going to be really interesting leading into National Signing Day. We think Ohio State pretty much has the number 1 class locked up, but I think there's one. There's
but it
2
doesn't
uncommitted 5 stars.
I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because every time I turn around, every 10 minutes, there's another 4 or 5-star changing, decommitting, and flipping somewhere else. I mean, I've never seen so many decommitments in my life.
It's getting kind of crazy. It
really is. Florida's picked up based on their win. They picked up several. The state had a 4-star decommit.
Ole Miss got a flip from Bama, the 5-star wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, one of the 4-star DNs for Ohio State decommitted today. He's a top 100 recruit. I mean,
Miami flipped a 4-star from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean everybody is flipping right now. It's just nuts. So I don't even know how to rank these things. So it's going to be. We'll do something once the dust settles. We'll kind of break it down and give your thoughts. But
we'll have to do a signing day reaction show.
To waste anything else on it right now seems ridiculous because it's just we don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
All right. So this week we normally do it on Wednesday night. But due to traveling, we will do this next pod on Thursday night.
Yep.
Okay.
All
right, Jake. Well, good. Well, listen, we got 2 weeks left. We're going to enjoy it, and we'll make sure we big matchups this week. This week is fully loaded.
Absolutely.
Well, no yard work for me this weekend. So.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure and leave a like and comment, subscribe on YouTube and follow on all the platforms. And thank you so much for watching. And good night, America.
Good night, Adley.